Hi everyone, and welcome to Let's Win. Here's where you'll find God-fueled encouragement that will help you live and lead with a victory mindset. So happy to be with you, and a special welcome to the ladies of the Oasis Revival Ministry. Hope you're enjoying these. I'd love to get some feedback from you. If you have an encouraging testimony that you want to share with us, or just something, if these have meant anything with you, give us some feedback. If you feel comfortable, write it in the comment section below, or even send it on the WhatsApp group, or send it to me, and perhaps we can share it if you would like that. Perhaps it could mean something for someone else. And if you're new here and you're visiting from somewhere else and someone's sent this on to you or forwarded this, we hope it blesses you, and feel free to do so. If you have appreciated this, share it with someone else. All right, so this past Sunday, we've been speaking about going into the promised land. We're just walking into the promises of God, not settling for anything less, not settling on this side of the Jordan River where it's comfortable and where you're familiar, walking and crossing perhaps into the unfamiliar. And this past Sunday we spoke about what it means to walk around the walls of Jericho and what that victory sounds like, what it is. I spoke a little bit, Daniel spoke, he shared such a powerful teaching. I love what he said about how often a victory happens in the silence, in that walk of obedience, that silent walk of obedience, and just surrendering to God's process. That's where the victory happens. And then we lift up a shout of victory, we lift up a shout of praise, of thanksgiving, and there's breakthrough. So the overcoming happens in the quiet, in the surrender. And he used the example of where Jesus was led before the council, and he was accused, and he was, it was just accused one after the other for one after the other thing. And what it was, he was like a lamb. He was quiet as a lamb, and he didn't defend himself. And often that's something we have to learn. For me, that's one of the hardest things, is not wanting to grab something and sort it out myself, hold it in my own hands and come to my own solutions and just try and I'll do it. I can't trust this process. Just grab it into my own hands. And that's where I've really been challenged with this whole teaching, this whole space that we're in, is letting the Lord fight that battle, letting Him make it happen. The Lord has a process. I wanted to share something with you in the past few weeks of just starting this year, and perhaps towards the end of last year as well. Personally, I've just felt like everything I've ever shared with people in terms of sharing a message or encouraging people or even giving a teaching on a Sunday, everything I always encourage people with, I have been tasted with. It's been through reproof in my own life, especially when I say to people, just trust the Lord. Just trust the Lord. He's got it. Or just turn to Him. Just ask Him. Just rest in His process. Rest in His ways. He'll provide. He'll break through. Every one of those things has been put to the test in my life. It's actually like the Lord says, okay, I'm hearing you say these things. Let's put it to the test. Let's see if it really is part of you. Let's see if it really, really is a part of your life. Let's put it to the test. And it's been quite a rough journey. It's been a tasting time. And it made me think of this what happened in the holiday. My kids I was just over screen time. It was just way too much screen time happening in our household over the holidays. And one day I GPT, whatever, asking, what can I give my kids to do, or give me some ideas. And so we go, it gives me an idea, and I tell them, okay, we're going to do some bridge building, was one of the ideas that came. I thought it's a great idea. Okay, and I gave them some things that they could build with. It was cardboard, sellotape, and string. They were only allowed to use cardboard, sellotape, and string. And it was now my 3 boys, and my oldest, my daughter, didn't really, she had enough to do. Anyway, so these 3 boys started building, and I didn't give them a lot of criteria about the size, but we were going to put it to the test and see whose bridge was the strongest. And I'm going to see if I can add a photo or two. They each came out with a very different bridge. Not one bridge looked like the other bridge, and I didn't give a specification. So some of them thought, okay, well, it had to was like an arch from one point to another, and I didn't specifically say that, but they went with that. But such surprising outcomes we had. We after putting it through severe testing, we actually placed weights on each of the 3 bridges and see how far can we put weights on until it crumbles. Surprisingly, out of them all, it was the youngest one's bridge that withstood tremendous amount of weight, up to a point that actually my oldest son could literally put his full weight. He stood on the little one's bridge that was made out of cardboard, and it withstood the weight. It was such a surprising outcome. But obviously, if you look at science and all of these things, he had a smart idea, and he surprised us all. It was so much fun, and we ended up actually just. This bridge is still in the room, and it's a legendary bridge. It's falling apart a little bit, but the others they got prizes in their craftsmanship, so and all the decorative skills. Anyway, it was a lot of fun, and it just reminded me of this process. And I asked the Lord for a scripture this morning, and just in preparing a little bit for today, and He gave me Proverbs 13. Verse 18, and it was actually one of those scriptures where it's just like, Lord, what are you saying? I was actually it triggered something inside of me. Poverty and shame come to him who refuse instruction and correction, but he who heeds reproof is honored. He who heeds reproof is honored. This is Proverbs 13 verse 18. He who heeds reproof is honored. Now, reproof is the process of making something better. The process of making something stronger. My first response was, Lord, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? I thought I'm actually doing the right thing here. I'm actually trusting you, Lord. What am I doing? And it's hard, like we're facing some hard challenges. But He is in the process of making something stronger, making something better. The proving of any substance. If you craft a product, if you in the testing phases of making a product, you'll know, those of you who are engineers, or those of you who know what these processes look like, this severe testing, just exposing things to harsh conditions. Up to what point does this thing break? Up to what point does this thing melt? Up to what point can this thing withstand XYZ? It's a process of proving something's strength. The process of proving something's ability to withstand, to hold strong, right? That's what it means to reproof. And at first I was, Lord, like just complaining, like I can't do this. Like, I don't need to go through this. But when I realized the Lord is actually bringing something better out of me, I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed with emotions, just realizing the Lord wants to make me stronger. He wants to purify me. He wants to refine the gold that is intrinsic inside of me. That's what gold has, an intrinsic value. Daniel spoke about this. I think it was last year, towards the end of last year. just the intrinsic value, and part of the refining process is to bring out the best quality of that which is inside already, of the gold that is inside. That's what it means to refine and purify. And I feel like the Lord is really taking His church, taking the community, taking us, women of God, and He's purifying us. Why? Because He loves us. Why? Because He wants to see us shine. He wants to see that come out, that beauty, that value come out and shine. And He wants us holy and pure for our sake, so that we can be more beautiful, more shiny, if that makes sense. So it's just this part of purifying and refining that is often hard, but if we know that God refines and purifies those He loves, then it's easier to surrender to the process, right? In Revelation 3, verse 18, I also read this morning. He said, therefore I counsel you. You can actually read the whole Revelation 3. It speaks about the unhealthy place where you feel like you don't need God, and you feel like you have everything. You have all these things around you that bring you happiness, and that you don't feel like you need God. That's not good, and He counsels against that. He says, therefore I counsel you to purchase, because those things are all earthly and those things will all fade away. Therefore I counsel you to purchase from me gold refined and tasted by fire, that you may be truly wealthy, and white clothes to clothe you, and to keep the shame from your nudity from being seen, and salve to put in your eyes that you may see. Those whom I dearly and tenderly love, this is the Amplified, I tell their faults, and convict and convince and reprove. I discipline and instruct them, those who I tenderly love. So be enthusiastic and burning with zeal. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears and listens to and heeds my voice and opens the door, I will come in, I will eat with him, and he will eat with me. You will have communion with him. So what that just says, it's not talking about purchasing gold from God, but it's letting Him bring His gold, His purified gold out within you, because He's woven together this intrinsic value as you were created and formed and crafted, and His refining process brings out that eternal value, that eternal gold that no money can buy, that there's nothing that compares to that. So, there are different areas in our lives that need purification. You might say, well, I don't do anything wrong. I don't live in sin. What does the Lord want to purify in me? And I encourage you, I'm going to attach just a little questionnaire that might help facilitate this process in your heart. But there's always room for us to be purified even more in our lives. For me, it was this whole thing of trusting the Lord, letting it into His hands, not wanting to grab it in my own hands. And that's something He's putting to the test. But areas that perhaps need purification in our lives could be things like just self-control, overindulgence. In fact, any fruit of the Spirit needs practice. It needs to be exposed to that harsh conditions for you to be able to have a victory in that area. If it's patience, the Lord's not just going to make, the story. The Lord's not just going to make you patient. He's going to make you wait for something, all right? If you need joy, like perhaps you might be going through a tough situation where you need to choose to have joy. If you're feeling hopeless, if you're feeling really weighed down, maybe you need to find a way to choose joy, to step into the strength of the Spirit inside of you and practice and overcome that. Those are that's part of the refining process. practicing restraint, like, let me not go into many details, but just having the ability to say no, or having the ability to stop in something, like put your phone down, stop scrolling, for example. Stop eating helping number 3 and 4 of that chocolate cake, stop lazing around, stop, stand up and be filled with energy and move outside and do something that's, there's places where we can just be refined in our life. And I know I'm speaking to the ladies of our church, and but there are some things, perhaps it's not worse, but perhaps it's something like envy or thoughts in your heart or in your mind that's not godly, or lust, or whatever it is, and there's no shame in this space. The important thing is that you can bring something into the light and name it and say, okay, this is what this is in my life. I've had enough of it. I bring it to God, I bring it to the light, even if you might have to tell a friend to help you keep accountable with something that you're struggling with in your life. It's worth bringing it into the light. When you keep something hidden, it has the room to grow and to fester and to become unhealthy. But as soon as you bring something out into the light, into a trusted environment where it's safe, and where that person is working together with you, for you, in God's process, then that's a space for something to be healed in. It's a space for something to be purified in. So, self-hate, I wrote that down. Even self-hate, like looking at yourself in the mirror and despising yourself, that's a real thing. I've come to do with it, That's a real thing, and that's not a God thing. That's not God's heart for you. So what is it that perhaps God is highlighting in your life that needs to go through a process of purification, that needs to go through a process of healing, and letting God purify it, strengthen it, put it to the test? And that testing is not an easy process. Promise you, I understand this. Testing is not an easy process, but I know, here's the thing, God's grace enables us. God's grace, His love, His kindness enables us to withstand whatever testing we're facing. That's the difference between us as children of God and someone who doesn't have God as their Father, who doesn't walk in relationship with Him, who is out there exposed to the elements of tasting on their own. We have the power of God, the grace of God inside of us, enabling, and He promises in His word that He will never put you to a test that you cannot face, that you cannot withstand. So whatever you're going through, know that God knows you can come out of this stronger. You can come out of this pure and tasted. And I get this feeling that the Lord's tasting us because He wants us to step up. He wants us to step up to a higher state of responsibility in the kingdom of God. There are things that He's called us to. There are things in this kingdom, in our circles, in our communities that He's called us to, that we need to step up to, and that we need to grow into. And he perhaps He can't release us yet because we haven't been put to the test. So if you're facing a test, if you're facing a tough pressure cooker, know that what's on the other side is a release of God's responsibility on your life. It's something that He can trust you with because you've earned it and you've withstood. So for me, it really is letting myself into God's hands and not, walking around that Jericho wall. I would be the person with the weapon, in their hands, trying to bash that wall down by myself. Like, this is not gonna work. God, are you crazy? This is, how are we gonna, how? I need to understand it. I always need to reason it in my head, and how is this gonna work now? But His ways are not our ways. His ways are so far above our ways. We can't try and bash the wall down with our own hammers. They won't work. We're working with principalities that are unseen. We can only trust His ways and what He gives us and the promises He gives us. So, what is the Lord wanting to purify and revive in your heart? Because He wants to make you holy and beautiful. You are already holy and beautiful, but there's more. There's more. There's a journey for us to go on. He tries those He loves. He tests those. He tries and reproves those He loves, and He loves you. Do you believe that, woman of God? That He loves you and therefore He's taking you on this journey? Will you surrender to His tender love? Will you surrender to His kindness and His grace? Let Him take you on that journey. If it feels harsh, just know that it could just be that there's something greater on the other side, and He needs you to carry that. So He's with you. Be encouraged. Stay strong and be filled with courage. Let's win today, tomorrow, on this journey and in this week. Bless you as you walk into your promises.